What's going on, everybody? It's Nick Kosko here with On3 Sports. I'm pleased to be joined today by two-time national champion for North Carolina Wrestling, Austin O'Connor, kind enough to join me today to talk about his wrestling journey. Austin, thanks for doing this, man. And I got to jump right into it because you overcame a lot, I would say, from 2022 to 2023. You ended your North Carolina career on top as a national champion, 157 pounds, your second title in 3 years. So just take me back to this whole season, this journey of going from, you know what, I was once at the top, but now I need to regain my spot at the top.
Yeah, it was a long journey. Started as soon as the last season ended. Season ended, I took eighth place and knew I wanted to be back at top of the podium, and I was willing to do anything to get there. So I had surgery about a week and a half after the season. Just started grinding on my rehab and training every day so I could get back to the top.
Take listeners and viewers through that process, and having surgery basically right after the tournament. I mean, what did you have to undergo in terms of recovery, rehab, and just to get back to the level that everyone was accustomed to seeing you at?
Yeah, I knew it was only a matter of time before I got back to the level I was at before. I was still doing good things with a torn ACL. So if I beat the majority of the kids in the country injured, I was excited for the next season and how I was going to be doing healthy. So it was a long journey back, and I actually ended up having another surgery about 3 months after the first one, and that kind of got to me a little bit. It was a tough kind of road back, and I thought it was going to go a lot smoother because I was dedicated to making my injury go away and be 100% by the time season started. So that was kind of a little bit of a blow to know that I had to go back in for surgery. But as soon as I got back in, got it cleaned up, everything started moving smoothly, and I was ready to get back after it. And yeah.
Was there a mental toll it took on you, knowing that it was a setback and you were feeling good during that rehab process, and all of a sudden you have to go under the knife once again? What did that do to you mentally?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely took a toll on me a little bit. Like I said, I was doing everything I could to heal my leg up. So to be told that I had to go back in and that the rehab wasn't working, I was like, well, if I'm doing everything the right way, then, and this isn't being healed correctly, then what else could I do? So I went back in, got the surgery, and the hardest part was getting my range of motion back. So within 2 weeks after my second surgery, I would get the improvements for my range of motion. And before I would get those improvements, but the next day I'd come back and I'd lose all range of motion that I've gained from the day before. Second surgery right away after the second week, when the swelling went down from the second surgery, you could tell noticeable difference. So I was kind of down for a week, but I was like, no, I'm just going to push through. They said the second surgery is going to help. So I trusted in my staff and everybody and my trainers, and just kept pushing through.
Actually quite amazing because you just detailed how you were able to beat a lot of these top guys in the country as a defending national champion with a torn ACL. And obviously I saw firsthand back in Detroit in 2022 how you were able to navigate that bracket and somehow get back to the podium. Just for the people who don't realize how a torn ACL works with wrestling, how difficult was that for you to even push through that, just to get through the final stages there and actually get your spot back on the podium at the very least?
The pain was one thing. I can handle the pain, especially the trainers kind of help you out with that. I got some stuff to kind of minimize the pain a little bit, but that was still hurting. But you get the adrenaline and everything, and you can kind of mitigate the pain. But the tough part was just not being able to wrestle to my style. I started opening up with a lot of attacks and shots and everything throughout the year, but having a torn ACL, it's almost impossible to shoot. Once your knee goes over your toe, it kind of feels like your knee slips out and just kind of bone collides, and just not a great feeling. So to go through that and just being able to adapt as a wrestler and kind of still beat these guys when I'm not at my fullest, I don't have my full arsenal. It was just good feeling to be able to do that. And I knew in my head that healthy, nobody was going to stop me.
So let's get into your most recent national title that capped off an undefeated season for you, your final season in Chapel Hill. Took down Penn State's Levi Haynes, obviously an all-star freshman, came out not really out of nowhere, but obviously he won the Big Ten, and he was obviously a guy who was talked about a lot in Tulsa. So When you won that title this time around, your second one, I know everyone says the first one is probably the biggest one to basically get like a monkey off their back, but did you feel any type of sense of relief knowing that you won this second one after winning a one 2 years ago, then coming off these injuries?
Yeah, it's definitely a relief, but I mean, at the same time, like I said, I knew I was going to be best in the country. So, I knew my training was perfect. Everything was going right. And, I was going to be back on the podium. And, I mean, I had some good competition. I thought I was going to see Peyton Robb. I would have liked to get a little revenge match because coming up to 57, first couple weeks, I took a loss to him, but I was ready for any of these guys. And, I was ready to prove that I was the best in the country.
So going after the 2022 season, you were granted obviously that extra year as all athletes were due to that COVID-19 waiver. So you had the extra year of eligibility. Was there ever a thought in your mind saying to yourself, maybe I won't come back, or did you always plan on coming back for one last ride?
I mean, way before I thought like I think we got granted it like decently soon. So, I was hoping to just get two titles out the way and then just be done after that year. But then taking eighth, it was just kind of a blow to me. I was like, that's not how I'm going to finish my college wrestling career. And, I was like, I'm going to end it off right. And, from there on, I was definitely in, I was all in, ready to go.
So throughout your career, obviously you're a five-time All-American, even with the 2020 season where it was obviously there was a canceled tournament, but five-time All-American, two-time national champion. Over the last 5-6 years, you've basically put North Carolina wrestling back on the map, or even more so on the map, with the obviously the growing eyes on the sport of wrestling. Everyone looks at the Big Ten, they'll even look at the history of the Big 12, but now with the ACC kind of rising to the cream of the crop, and what you've done at North Carolina, I mean, how do you put that in perspective for yourself, knowing that you've done this for your program?
Yeah, it's a just surreal feeling. I mean, to be able to take the program from kind of falling off because we were a dominant program back in the day, but kind of falling off and then restarting it up. I knew we had the right coaching staff in place. Just kind of all the pieces were there. And me coming here was the first step to changing the program and changing the culture of the team. And I mean, to be able to say that I did it and like I set out to do it and I did it. I mean, it was almost as an amazing feeling as winning my national title. I mean, just from my team helping me out and get there, my coaches, just I couldn't be more grateful. And I plan on sticking around and helping out for another year just because of all that they gave to me. I want to continue to see this program succeed and just continue being a part of that.
So that's actually something I wanted to get into was your future. I know you've teased your future. I believe I saw somewhere that you're actually done competing in wrestling and you're going to be pivoting more towards the coaching. What are you actually doing for the future now that your college career is over?
So I'm still trying to set it up. Next year, I plan on get a coaching position at North Carolina or something that I could stick around and help out. But I want to just save up a little bit of money. And while I do that, I want to start training these other martial arts because I want to go into MMA. So I think kind of like a gap year of just being able to still train, get it like a secure job to save up a little bit of money. So then when I go into fighting, I kind of already have that background because I've been training for a full year while coaching. And then just, I mean, fighting's a tough sport too. So I mean, if it don't turn out, at least I have a little safety net, you know.
Absolutely. Before we get into your MMA aspirations, I wanted to go back to your high school days when you were deciding on a college. Now, for those who are not too familiar with your high school recruiting background and what the process that you did to get to North Carolina, did you always think about UNC as the place you wanted to go? I mean, I'm sure other programs were saying, you know what, come here, come here. We already have an established culture. North Carolina might be falling off. Maybe they use that in recruiting tactics against you going to the Tar Heels. But what was your recruiting process like that, and that you ended up in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, I honestly had no interest in going here at all at first. We had two guys from Illinois, Matt Rundell and Matt Rollins, who came here, and I kind of knew about them. And I mean, they're both pretty good athletes coming out of high school too, and they were trying to recruit me a little bit to come here. And I was just like, it's not really a big wrestling school, and I don't know if I kind of want to go to a little bit bigger of a program. Um, Maybe not one of the top. I'd still like to help out a program and kind of start something new, but um, just wasn't really on my radar. And then after Coleman Scott got the position here because he came the year before me, and Tony, and I went out to Super 32, and they were just like, "Hey, why don't you stop by?" So I stopped by and love the campus. I mean, it's one of the best weather states for wrestling. So it was kind of hard to beat. I was looking at other schools like Mizzou and Illinois. I mean, it would have been nice to stay close to home, but just all the pieces came together here, and I liked where they wanted to go, and I knew they were the people to um, help me succeed. So yeah, I wanted to come here and do that.
Obviously, you stuck it out, and you end up getting 2 national titles for the program. Obviously, as I mentioned before, a 5-time All-American. Now, with the coaching position, wherever the case may be, whether you're kind of off to the side, volunteer, or actually officially on the staff, and as you take that gap year, as you called it, to transition to MMA, how are you going to use that? How would you balance out your coaching responsibilities or whatever your responsibilities would be next season, and then in balance with obviously keeping up your wrestling training, learning more jiu-jitsu, learning striking, and then transitioning into MMA? And how would you all balance that next year?
I honestly think that's going to be the easiest thing I've done because I mean, being a athlete for 6 years in college and at the same time having to do a whole work of school load. This year I'm in a grad program. I feel like after graduating from my grad school, it's going to be a relief to just kind of be done with school, being able to just focus completely on my training. I mean, I'll help out with other aspects like recruiting as well, but I mean, that's easy. I mean, we're putting out a product that people want to buy into. So um, I think that it's going to be an easy transition to just keep on my training and just fully focus on that stuff.
So when you look at MMA, are you trying to model your eventual MMA career based on some of these other high-profile wrestlers that have made the transition already? Obviously, I know Bo Nickal's the biggest one right now, already in the UFC, already rapidly rising up the ranks of the UFC as well. Is that your ultimate goal, the UFC Gold? Do you think other organizations might be the way to go, or how do you see your MMA career playing out exactly?
I think ideally I'd like to eventually get in the UFC because I mean that's the biggest mixed martial art corporation right now. But I don't know. I'm gonna see where DC wants me. If he wants me to go to Bellator, if he wants me on any other thing, I'll probably start out there, kind of build my reputation, and then just kind of I guess wherever the money takes me, I'll end up. So yeah.
Are you okay with the slower route and not getting accelerated necessarily? Taking maybe 3 to 5 amateur fights, then going pro, or do you kind of want to go pro right away?
So I'm actually trying to figure out if I could do some amateur fights this summer, just get in the ring, build some experience. But I mean, the whole idea of me staying back a year is literally just take a gap year and focus on my training. If I can stay in shape while wrestling these guys in college and helping them out, but at the same time at night pick up like a jiu-jitsu class or a boxing class and pick up those skills. I feel like by the time I hit the cage, I'm going to be dangerous already, and I'll be able to move up a little bit quicker, but it's going to be where I feel comfortable. I mean, I'm not in no rush, so just kind of see how it plays out.
I'm definitely of the mind that wrestling is the best base for MMA. Now, as far as jiu-jitsu and boxing, do you have any prior experience? Did you ever train in those disciplines or take any classes before? What's your background in those two sports?
I've done jujitsu a little bit. I've played around with it. I actually won Naga, I think in like 6th or 7th grade. So um, I've always liked jujitsu and kind of played around with it, but I haven't been able to compete too much just because I've been so focused on wrestling my entire life. But and then boxing, I don't really have too much experience other than like some playground fights with kids in my high school and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to hop into it. I think those are going to be easy to martial arts to pick up compared to wrestling. So
Absolutely. So let's kind of bring it back to North Carolina a little bit before I let you go here. So just to kind of put it all in perspective, when you look back at your career in college at North Carolina, let's say 5, 10 years from now, obviously people are going to remember for what you did on the mat, 2-time champ, 5-time All-American, obviously the tremendous comeback from an injury in 2022. But how do you want your legacy to be remembered, even 3 months from now, 5 years from now, and then eventually 10, 20 years from now?
I mean, guess a good way to look at it is I was asked at nationals this year that people forgot about me. Um, I want to prove a point and make sure people don't forget about my name and my legacy. So I'm just going to continue working and continue to do great things and just kind of build myself up that way.
Where do you think the ceiling is for this North Carolina wrestling program, compared to where it was even before you got on campus?
I think we could have a national championship team and hopefully the next few years. I mean, we have great pieces of the program, and you kind of see now that people are starting to kind of buy in. I mean, we had a freshman this year take fourth. We had another, I think, sophomore place eighth. So, I mean, we have the right pieces there and everything. And hopefully, with me sticking around, and I think we actually just brought in a great freshman class. So, I think we're just going to continue to climb until we're eventually at the top of the team standings too.
Austin O'Connor with me on 3 Sports here, two-time national champion for the North Carolina Tar Heels. One more for you, Austin. Now, I kind of mentioned it before, how the Big Ten is the de facto wrestling conference of college wrestling. The Big 12 has a lot of history behind it. The ACC has been rising in recent years, obviously with North Carolina, NC State, Virginia Tech, and you saw Pitt had a national champion this year with Nino Bonacorsi as well. So what should people know about ACC wrestling, where the casual wrestling fan might see the Big Ten, the Big 12, and say, those are the wrestling programs that everyone knows. But what should people know about ACC wrestling? Is it a different style? Is it that the fact that you guys are on par with the other conferences as well? What is it about ACC wrestling that the people need to know?
I mean, I think we're all just starting to compete. I think it's getting very, very competitive. You're starting to see a lot more emotion on the mat between all the ACC schools. All of us want to rip each other's heads off, but I mean, honestly, at the end, when we're at the national tournament, we're kind of rooting for each other. So there's kind of a camaraderie a little bit in that aspect. And I don't think it's really much of a style. I know we got some hard-nosed wrestlers. You could say the same about the Big Ten, but I think all the programs are starting to put together the right pieces with the right coaches. We're getting some of the bigger recruits now. And I think we're just showing that we're a top conference as well. And people are going to continue to want to come our way because they see the success we're continually having. And I think we can maybe start adding a few more teams to the ACC and get it as big as the Big Ten. And then I think we're going to be right there competing with them talent level and depth wise.
Great stuff. Austin O'Connor with me on 3 Sports. Austin, I appreciate you doing this, man. Good luck in your gap year, as you call it. And I'm very eager to see what you can do in the MMA world as well. And obviously, all the best to you and the North Carolina program.
Yep. Thank you.
Austin O'Connor with me here on 3 Sports.